স্বপ্ন যাবে অনেক দূর, হবে না তো স্বপ্ন যাবে অনেক দূর, হবে না তো স্বপ্ন যাবে অনেক দূর, হবে না তো
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Gardening, Learn and Fun. I'm your host Safwana Saeed, and this is the program where we can all put in a little bit more effort into learning about our environment and also how to have fun in your garden and make sure you're really engaged with nature. And so every week we have multiple segments. So we'll have a featuring topic, which I will do, and we'll also have a Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 segment. And at the end of the program, we'll have a quiz to make sure we're all grounded in our knowledge of today's program. And we'll also talk a little bit about the current gardening activities that you can do. And joining us every single week is a guest, and today's guest is Tasnim.
Hi, I'm Tasnim Rashid.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, I'm glad. So how about you introduce yourself to everyone?
Hi, everybody. I'm Tasnim Rashid, and I really love gardening. My mum, ever since I was little, my mum's raised me to make me do her watering because she's got a bad back, and so since that, I've been helping her every single year with her gardening,
and that is
I really
so nice.
It's really cool how we can just straight up make vegetables and fruits from scratch and eat the food that we make. And that's one of the reasons why I love gardening.
I agree. Do you have a favorite vegetable that you like to eat?
I think tomatoes are very versatile, and tomatoes I love cooking, so tomatoes go well with everything.
That is true. I do like tomatoes. I do like tomatoes as well. Oh, that's great.
What about
you? That's hard because I have favorite kind of Western vegetables, so cucumbers and tomatoes. But I also really like lao. I really like lao. I think that's my number one. And begun bhaji, best dish. So yeah. So how about we see who's with us for watching us at home. So we have Shokar Mukul or Mukul Uncle, and he says, good evening all. Thank you for watching. Rajika Ruman, hello my dear future gardener. Hi. Okay. Shokar Mukul says, my favorite show of BGS. Oh, well, thank you very much. Hopefully I get to do this every week for quite a while. Hi, Safwana and Tasnim. Hi.
Hi.
Zora Chowdhury. Assalamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you everyone for watching. Wa alaikum salam. I love Lao too. Yes, I'm sure. I hope everyone loves Lao. Good evening. Good evening to everyone as well. Okay. Good evening, dear.
Is anyone watching from Bangladesh? What's the time in Bangladesh?
Oh yeah. Oh, my sister's here as well. Naylin. Hi. Inaya loves begun bhorta.
I also love begun bhorta.
Yes, begun is up there. It's very versatile. You can have begun bhorta, bhaji. It's really good. Safwana, you are so natural. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I try my hardest. Okay. Yeah, is anyone watching from Bangladesh like Tasnim said? I don't know. I feel like quite a lot of these viewers are from the UK. Since we are speaking in English, I don't know.
Yeah.
You can speak a little bit of Bangla if you want to.
I think my uncle is watching from Bangladesh. That's all I know.
Oh, wow. Well, Assalamu alaikum. I would speak Bangla, but I feel like you're better at Bangla than me. I don't
I don't think I am.
know. Oh, questions to both. How to encourage kids to gardening and eating vegetables. Oh, how would you encourage some kids?
I think I can answer the eating vegetables very well since I love cooking and I do food tech at school for GCSE. A good way to encourage kids to eat vegetables is by hiding them in your food.
Oh,
Like you can chop up carrots and peppers very small, and you can just put them in like tomato sauce for like a quick and easy pasta. Or like lao is very tasty with chingri mach. That's a very good pairing. Uh, or you can either hide it or just lather it in lots of flavor, lots of spices and stuff. But I'm sure my Bengali aunties and uncles know a lot about spices, probably more than me.
yeah. No, I think that's a very good tip. Yeah. I agree. I think hiding them in the food is very good. And also telling them like kind of the importance of it so that they know it's a good thing and it's not a bad thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
Good luck and best wishes to all. Okay, thank you. Okay, so how about we move on to our first segment of today's program? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to the first segment. All right, so today I've chosen the topic of gardening history. I think that it's really important that we kind of know the history behind what we love to do, especially since everyone watching is probably a garden enthusiast and loves plants. So I think it's very important to know kind of the history behind that. So I'll go on to the next slide. So yeah, the history of gardening. So we have to kind of travel very, 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 very long time ago, and we have to travel back in time using our time turners and time travel machines, aka Google, and kind of figure out how exactly it kind of began to be a thing. So I'll go on to my next slide. Okay, so Fertile Crescent. I don't know if most people know about this. When I was researching this, it was very new to me. Have you ever heard of this?
No, I've not. Sounds
Yes,
interesting though.
so it is very interesting. I was quite shocked when I saw it. So, Fertile Crescent is the name given to kind of area in the Middle East. So it has countries like Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Jordan, Palestine, Egypt, and parts of Turkey and Iran. So they used to call it Fertile Crescent. So these are the areas where the earliest kind of civilizations were established, as I have written on the PowerPoint. So I was kind of very shocked when I saw that. I was like, oh, kind of like
Wow. Yeah.
the first kind of people like living together in a community. So yeah, I found that really cool. So this is kind of where agriculture really started. And due to its abundant water, it has about three different rivers in it, and part of like the River Nile ran through the Fertile Crescent. So it was very, a lot of water for the plants to use. And it also had very, very fertile soil. So it was perfect for growing plants. And so in Fertile Crescent, the civilizations there, they first established the idea of irrigation. Excuse me, irrigation, and this is basically the idea of watering plants. So before this, no one actually thought to add water to plants, which I think is pretty crazy. Like, since our parents are probably so used to watering every single day, even going outside at like 2 a.m. and like forgetting to water and like going out to water and you just hear the water running. I don't know, has it ever happened to you?
Yeah. And or when my mum's like out all day and then she quickly forgets that she forgot to water the plants, so she comes rushing home from wherever she's been just to water her plants. Like they're the most dearest
Literally.
creations.
Honestly, it's crazy. And like to think that before this, I mean, this is 11,000 years ago, which if you think about it, that is
Wow.
crazy amount of time. Um, they didn't even think of the idea of adding water to plants. And so this is where that idea kind of came. So they thought, hey, how about we add water to these plants that we kind of threw seeds out into the soil and they happen to grow. So they were like, hey, let's add water and see what happens. And they found that it really helped the plants. And so, yeah, that's how agriculture really started. So I'll go on to my next slide. So in the Fertile Crescent, it was kind of like farming. It was mainly farming, and it was kind of just very basic things. It was more of a let's test it out kind of thing. And then plant domestication kind of slowly happened from that point on. So in from 9000 BC kind of onwards, it slowly started to become a bit more domesticated. So they started to really use the plants. And so fig trees, which is a very cool thing, a very cool plant, which I think my dad made a post about this, about how wasps live inside of fig trees and then they like get digested. I don't know. It's very
Oh
interesting.
wow.
I could make
Yeah.
a segment on it one day. It's very interesting. But at this time was when like fig trees kind of started to be grown. And this is also when probably some of our favorite dishes, including rice. So rice farming started in 4300 BC in China. So yeah, that's a very,
Wow.
very long time ago. And also squash, and as I have written on here, so maize and corn, which is like a very, very important crop, started to be grown, and also potatoes, which is very cool. I'm going to quickly see if anyone
Yeah.
has any questions, unless, do you have any questions? Okay, so
No. But
Mahmoud Tinku says, do you know Babylon Hanging Garden, one of ancient wonder, what is believed to be in modern days Iraq? Ooh, interesting. So, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world is Babylon, or Babylon. Sorry, I think I mispronounced that. Babylon. Um, so, do I know about the Hanging Garden? Ooh, I don't actually know. I don't think so. I'll have to do a little bit of research on that, and because that sounds very interesting. Oh, modern days Iraq. That's very interesting. I'll have to definitely look that up for you. Let's see if there's any more questions. Mesopotamia, Egyptian civilization, Harappa civilization, some older civilizations with agriculture system. Yeah, so it was very much around that area in the Middle East. And so that's some of the oldest kind of agricultural civilizations. Good luck. Thank you, Israt Maria.
oh, that's by my
Okay.
auntie.
Oh, is that your auntie? Hello, Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah.
And we have, is that a smiley face? Yes, from Sam and Ira. Thank you for the smiley face. Okay, let's continue with the presentation. Okay, so the origins of Western gardening. So obviously you look out into your gardens and it's very, very different from what I just shown you in the other pictures in the Fertile Crescent, because they were very, very basic. They didn't even think that it was something nice to look at or something, creative. They could just kind of saw it as a thing, which is pretty shocking because nowadays we're kind of all obsessed with pretty colors and stuff. And this is kind of the origins of that. So in Egypt, which ancient Egypt, about 4,000 years ago, they decided to kind of think about how we can use plants to bring mindfulness and calmness. And so they used to have these things for these gardens for contemplation, where kind of the rich people in ancient Egypt would have in their homes, and they would have these. So these included water ponds, trees, flowers, and vegetables. So it was a very mixture, just like we'd see in today's gardening. And gardening came into England and in the Western world through kind of the Roman Empire, which you might have learnt about it at school, I'm not sure. But yeah, it came through the Roman Empire since they kind of carried a lot of things. And so, yeah, and they started to really use plants for medicinal purposes during this time as well. So that's kind of how they started to kind of do a little bit more scientific research, if you could call it that, during this time. And then we move on to the creative gardening in the 16th century, which is very, very, very much fast forward. This was only about 400 years ago compared to 4,000 years ago. So yeah, I wish I could talk about all the little things, but it would take a very, very long time. So we have the Elizabethan era, so Queen Elizabeth the First, not the second, the first. And so kind of in the 1500s, she really wanted bright gardens in her castle, and she would have things like daffodils. Daffodils were a favorite of hers. And so yeah, that's kind of how our kind of modern gardens kind of came about a little bit. Still a very long time ago and still very strict. They also had mazes in their garden. So like they would use hedges as mazes. And so if you went out for a stroll in your evening times after tea with the Queen, you would take a stroll in the mazes, which I think is pretty cool. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should bring that back, having mazes in our garden. That
That would
pretty
be so
fun.
much fun. I think it's really interesting how the Egyptian society, they used nature as a means of, I guess, bettering their well-being, because that's like something that you find in today's society. Like during the pandemic, I think some of you guys might have went on walks for your mental health or for your well-being and been like attuned with nature or at one with nature, because it does improve your mental health. So it's really interesting how even 4,000 years ago they recognized how important nature is for our well-beings.
Yeah, that is so right. You know, you mentioned something amazing there, you know, just seeing kind of the little bits of like, I mean, come on, 4,000 years ago, you'd think like we wouldn't relate to anything, especially in Egypt, but you can definitely see how
Yeah.
it influenced us today. Um, what is Elizabeth Gardens? Inaya asked. So Elizabeth Gardens is Elizabethan Gardens. So Queen Elizabeth the First, she was the Queen of England in the kind of late 1500s, so about 400 years ago, a little bit more than that. So very, very long time ago, she was the queen, and she had a big castle, and she had a lot and lots of gardens all around her castle. And so we call them the Elizabethan Gardens because she really loved to walk around in there. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide. Victorian gardening. So this is kind of fast forward again, and we go to Queen Victoria. So if you don't know Queen Victoria, she has like the second longest reign, the first being Queen Elizabeth the second. And so during Queen Victoria's reign, we had the Industrial Revolution. So do you know what the Industrial Revolution is?
The Industrial Revolution is a period in time in the Victorian era where our society started, the British society specifically, started making more products so they started making more products and became very industrial with lots of factories across the country, which made Britain a country that relied upon itself more rather than having to get things from other countries.
Exactly. And this is kind of the point in time we see, you know, as Tasnim said, becoming more independent with our economy. So it's kind of these big words that you might not know, but it's basically how England tried to make their own money. I think that's kind of the best way I could put it. Because for a very long time, they would import a lot of things from different countries. So they would take it from different countries. And trade was also a very big thing. But now they kind of start to focus on themselves a little bit more. And so during the Industrial Revolution, a lot of pollution was made. And pollution is basically all of the gases and kind of rubbish, I guess you could say, that was thrown into the air from all of these machines and all of these cars that were being made during this time and vehicles. And it just did really bad things for our environment, which we'll probably learn a little bit later in one of our segments today. And so during this time, because of the pollution, it kind of damaged a lot of the plants, and it kind of charred like the trees. It made trees very blackened, and so they decided to plant a lot of public gardens for people to stroll in. And so one of the pictures I have, the top one, that's Kew Gardens, which used to be a favorite of the Queen's, Queen Victoria's. And she was really reluctant to make it into a public garden since she exercised in that garden, which I find kind of funny. Just thinking about the Queen exercising in the garden. Um, but yeah, it was made into a public garden during this time to kind of get people out and kind of liven up the atmosphere during that time. Um, so yeah, I'll go on to the next slide. Okay, modern gardening. So I have some lovely pictures here of my garden at home, my dad's garden and my mum's garden. Um, so yeah, those are a few pictures of that. So modern gardening, obviously now compared to the Victorian era, we have a lot more freedom in a lot of regards. So um, naturally, we had a lot more freedom of what we put in our homes and in our gardens and on display for everyone to see. Um, so yeah, as you can see, there's a lot of mixture of flowers and vegetables, fruits, herbs, and I'm sure everyone watching at home who loves gardening probably has a lot of these things as well. And so it's a lot more creative as well. You know, you get these kind of ideas you wouldn't even think about. And so I think, in my opinion, gardening is still evolving. It's still getting more and more creative, more and more interesting. And I can't wait to see, you know, fast forward in 200 years. Well, I probably won't be able to see it, but, you know, it's interesting to think about how in 400 years, gardens could look completely different. And also the including house plants as well, because they didn't really have house plants in the Victorian era. They didn't really think about that a lot. They definitely had like some showpieces of flowers, but like in terms of growing things inside the house, they didn't really think about that as much. Oh, there's a question from Mukolanko. Can you please explain the difference between Elizabethan garden versus Syed Shuman garden? Thanks. So that's my dad's garden versus Elizabethan garden. So I think Elizabethan garden is a much more focus on the designs and looking a little bit more pretty and having mazes and being very elegant, you know, for the Queen. It was a very regal time where everyone was kind of concerned with the royalty because Elizabeth's dad was King Henry VIII. I'm sure a lot of people know who he is. And so it was very much a time where people were focused on the monarchy. And so they wanted everything to be regal. They had big bushes that they would cut into shapes, and they would have pink and red and Tudor roses everywhere. Whereas this garden on the screen, my dad's garden, is a lot more, I wouldn't say wild, but a lot more creative. Definitely a lot more mixture of vegetables and fruits, and very spontaneous things like a flamingo. I don't know if you can see that in the picture. And a waterfall. We have a waterfall in our garden. My sister, Naylan Said, says, what are your favorite flowers? Oh, that's a hard one. What would you say while I'm thinking of one?
I think my favorite flowers are either forget-me-nots, because they're just so pretty. Like they're like a really nice periwinkle color, which I love. It's my favorite color. Or I would say daffodils, because they're just like such they're such like an iconic flower.
They are. Did you know that the daffodil was like one of Shakespeare's favorite flowers? I did read that somewhere. I did read that somewhere. Yeah, it's a fun fact for everyone. I think I'd have to say I like hydrangeas.
Yeah.
I think that my sister likes peonies, I think. I don't know, but I like hydrangeas. I think she likes hydrangeas as well. Yeah, I think those are my favorites. And dahlias. I think I really like the darker hues of dahlias. I think you can see them in one of the pictures. I'm not sure. Do you want to read this question?
Muckle Uncle asked questions to both. Who does the most gardening? Your mum or your dad?
Oh, And he says
That's
no
a good
political
question.
answer. No political answer. Oh, I don't know. How would you answer that?
I think my dad's just quite busy, so I think my mum does most of the gardening. And
I
my mum
see
is
that.
like quite my dad does like my dad has his specific strawberry plants which he planted and he takes care of and
Mhm.
but the rest of our garden is my mum's.
I see. Yeah. I'd say my parents are very 50-50. Mainly because my dad kind of does like the kind of manual stuff, like creating things and like
Yeah.
kind of designing things and, doing like some, kind of the harder, like I don't want to say the harder work because my mum does like equally as hard work, but kind of the getting down and like thinking, okay, I want this in the garden. And then my mum is more of the botanist. So she's like, okay, this seed and like this watering and this fertilizer is the best. And so it's a good mixture. Like, and they kind of
Yeah.
made our garden really good. So yeah, perfect pairing. Okay. Mahmoud Aprova. So my favorite flower is night sky petunia, says Inaya. Oh, I don't actually know what that looks like. I know what a petunia is. Maybe it's like a different color. That's very nice.
That
Um,
sounds very
um,
pretty though.
it does. Night sky, very
You have very good
nice
taste,
name.
Anaya.
Yeah. Shokra Mukul Uncle says, thanks for your detailed explanation. Well done. You're welcome. I love hydrangeas and peonies. Yes, as I
You were
guessed.
correct.
Yes. I knew if I got it wrong, she'd be like, no, that's not my favorites. But yeah. Okay, so that was my presentation on the history of gardening. So I hope everyone learned something new, just like I did when I was researching this, because I did not know any of this stuff. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, I'll be sure to try and answer them either today or in the comments later on. So how about we move on to your segment of today's video or today's program?
It sounds like a great plan.
Okay, let's do that.
So my segment is all about fire ecology, and if you don't know what that means, fire ecology just means it's like sort of a science which examines the role of fire in ecosystems, and ecosystems just means an ecosystem is just like well, what do you think it means? So
An ecosystem. Oh, I would say it's kind of everything in your environment. So, like the living, like the community, the populations, and like the air, I think. So, yeah, like that's your ecosystem.
yeah. If we could go into the next slide, please. So humans on Earth have been using fire ever since the Stone Age, which you might have learnt in school. Where in the Stone Age we learnt to make fire using dry wood, which is just wood, and friction. But before this, the Earth had been using fires for many different reasons. So a long time ago, before humans ever existed, the Earth had been using fire. And on the next slide, we'll see what fire ecology is. Fire ecology. Fire is a natural component of many ecosystems, which include plant and animals that interact with one another and with their physical environment. Fire ecology examines the role of fire in ecosystems. Fire ecologists, which is the name for people who study fire ecology, they study the origins of fire, what influences the spread of the fire, and the intensity of the fire. And they also study how you can control fires to maintain the health of the ecosystem.
I see.
And the question we will answer today is, what is fire's effect on the ecosystem? And on the next slide, we'll see the first point. Soil conditions. Wind fires can be both a benefit and a detriment, so a negative thing, to soil. The soil can become more nutrient rich after a fire because the ash from the fire has a high mineral content, and so does the charcoal. And the warm, moist conditions also increase microbial activity, which just means it increases bacteria, which can be a good thing for the plants. However, the intense heat can also cause soil particles to become water repellent, which means that they don't absorb water, which can cause rainwater to run off. And as the water run off, it can take soil particles with it, leading to erosion, or I guess kind of the reduction in the amount of soil that there is. And if we go into the next slide, as the next point. Cleaning the forest floor is another reason why fire is very helpful. So fire removes the low-growing underbrush, meaning it removes the top layer of a forest floor, which cleans the forest floor of debris or dirt, and it opens the forest floor up to sunlight, which nourishes the soil and the plants which need sunlight. This also reduces the competition for nutrients within the plants and the trees, which means that the trees can grow stronger and healthier. So in history teaches us that hundreds of years ago, forests had fewer yet larger and healthier trees. Forests today have more trees than in the past because of the lack of competition, but they are not as large or healthy. The established trees have to compete with the undergrowth, so with the other trees, for nutrients and space. Fire, however, clears the weaker trees and debris and returns health to the forests by making more strong trees. Clearing brush from the forest floor with low-intensity flames can help prevent large damaging wildfires that spread out of control and completely destroy forests, which I think answers someone's question. Under optimum conditions, so when fires are controlled, when wildfires do start, the result is a low-intensity fire that remains on the ground, burning grasses and vegetation, but it causes less damage to trees. And if we go into the next slide, we can see how fires also provide habitat. Wildlands provide habitat and shelter to forest animals and birds. So habitat just means a home for animals and birds. Fire clears wildlands of heavy brush, leaving room for new grasses, herbs, and regenerated or new shrubs that provide food and habitat for many wildlife species. So the grass and the trees just provides a living area for the birds and the animals. So when fire removes some trees, the water supply is also increased, and with fewer plants absorbing water, the streams of the water are fuller, which means that other plants and animals can benefit from it. And to answer a question from Inaya, soil erosion just means when the soil is kind of being worn off, or because of the fire and the water, it kind of dissolves and isn't as good soil as it was before. And if we move on to the next slide, we can learn about how fires can kill diseases. Fires kill diseases and insects that prey on trees and provide valuable nutrients that can enrich the soil. More trees die each year from insect infestation and disease than from fire. Many forests struggle against diseases, such as, for example, the pitch canker and the bark beetle infestations, which can destroy the parts of the trees that deliver nutrients to the roots, leaves, and needles. Fire kills pests and keeps the forest healthy. Vegetation that is burnt by fire provides a rich source of nutrients that nourish remaining trees. So fires can kill diseases, and I'm sure how did your dad prevent infestations in his garden? I'm sure he didn't use fire.
Yeah, I don't think he uses fire, but I think he sprays things with insecticides and stuff. I'm pretty sure he does that.
Yeah. That is probably a better way to do it than fire, but
I do
wildlife.
hear that burning leaves, like if you have infected leaves, burning leaves is a good way to really get rid of them, though.
On the next slide, we can see the new generations. So fires also help to maintain the new generations because change is very important to a healthy forest. Some species of trees and plants are actually fire dependent. They must have fire every 3 to 25 years in order for their life to continue. Some trees have fire-resistant bark and cones that require heat to open and release seeds for regeneration. Chaparral plants, including manzanita, chamise, and scrub oak, also require intense heat, such as from a fire, for seed germination. These plants actually encourage fire by having leaves that are covered with flammable resins, which is just like a type of material which encourages fire. Without fire, these trees and plants would eventually succumb or would eventually have to go to old age with no new generations to carry on their legacy. And to answer Muhammad Tinku's question, forest fire is good. Well, not necessarily. Forest fires are a very natural thing that has been happening before humans existed, and they can help an ecosystem, but they can also damage, if they are uncontrolled, they can damage the ecosystem, animals, and our habitats. And if we go into our next slide, we learn more about that. So Earth is uniquely a fire planet, and humanity is uniquely a fire creature, since we have learnt to utilize or use fire since we were a very new species. Fire is an essential fact of our environment. Many species of plants have adapted to withstand fire. Fire is unique, however, in its necessity. So fire needs other like plants and shrubs so it can burn through it to sustain it, because without plants, fire wouldn't exist. Unlike other natural disasters such as floods and winds, which can happen without a sign of life present, fire depends on life to burn. The matter or the plants and stuff that it uses to burn is constantly ever changing, which is why it can be very difficult to track the spread of fires. Like meteorologists, which are the people who can track the weather, meteorologists can track for other events such as storms or hurricanes, but they can struggle to track the spread of fires. This can be an issue for the people trying to stop the spread of wildfires, which can be harmful, which brings me on to my next point on the next slide. Wildfires. Despite fires being a natural occurrence on the earth since long before the first humans ever took their first steps, today fires are some sort of a natural disaster. In the US, 80% of wildfires are started by people, and that is a big number. The way a fire operates is largely determined by a region's wildlife. Changing the environment impacts the fire's effects, which is why changing the environment, which I'm going to expand on later, can be harmful for the environment, because it can cause more fires and more natural disasters.
I see. Oh, wow. See, I always thought of wildfires in such a negative way, but now I'm thinking, there are some positives to it as well as negatives.
Yeah, but wildfires, which are unplanned fires that burn in a natural area such as a forest or a grassland, since they are often caused by human activity, they are very detrimental, or they can be very harmful to us. For example, since 2000, only just 15 forest fires in the US alone has caused $1 billion in damages each.
Oh my goodness.
Because of the loss of homes and infrastructure along with firefighting costs. So it can be very harmful to us and very harmful to animals and stuff. Wildfires can also be very deadly for both humans / firefighters who are in the line of fire and species who are at risk of dying. So whilst fire does have its positives in terms of helping our ecosystem by allowing plants to germinate their seeds by releasing their seeds for fire-resistant plants, or by allowing competition between the plants to settle, it can also be very deadly if uncontrolled or if started by humans. Which brings me on to my next point on the next slide. Wildfires can be very deadly, so we should try to minimize the spread and how many that occur. Not to mention that wildfires release greenhouse gases, which is carbon dioxide in this instant, which you might have learnt about in school. Greenhouse gases warm the earth, leading to more wildfires and other natural disasters, such as the floods in Pakistan, for example. We can reduce the amount of uncontrollable wildfires and other natural disasters by being safe with fires, such as not lighting a barbecue nearby dry forests or only lighting bonfires in permitted areas. We can also reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, which in turn creates a cooler Earth, so less fires occur. We can do this. We can reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by using less electricity, for example, which also helps in the cost of living crisis, which I'm sure all the parents who are watching know. We can also reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by using public transport rather than a car, or car sharing wherever possible. For example, I car share to school, or by going on less flights and recycling. And that is it for my presentation. Are there any questions?
That was excellent. I'm so happy you decided to talk about this. I feel like they don't really teach fire ecology that much in school. Like, I never knew about all the benefits of fire for plants, which I think I'm really glad you chose that topic. And also, showing, the problems with it as well. I think it's very important. So yeah, I think there's a question here for you. Would you like to read it?
Can you do marshmallows in forest fire? If yes, how many at a time? I don't think it would be safe to go near a forest fire, so probably not. But I'm sure you can do a marshmallow like in a bonfire or a campfire, as long as you're in a permitted area, as to not cause a wildfire.
Yeah, I don't think you want to go near all of that pollution either. Thinking of another question.
That would probably not be great for you. Tasnim, how can you remember all these? Amazing. What nutrients do I need to boost my memory? That is a good question, one that I do not know the answer to, but I'm sure having vegetables can help, and probably growing your own vegetables and fruits can help with that.
Yes.
So I think it's really interesting how fire, like, we've all been taught that wildfires are really harmful. Like, in the recent news, there's been wildfires almost every season, it feels like. But it's interesting how, I guess it can really help an ecosystem as well.
In the right ways, yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
If they are controlled, though.
Yes, that's very important. If they're not controlled, they can go very crazy. So I think it was 2020 when the Australian wildfires happened. They were all over the news in January 2020. It was crazy watching it on the news. The skies were literally red from the wildfires, and it was horrible. And people had to evacuate. I want to go to school by walking, but my dad doesn't let me. And what do you have to? A little protest? Do you want to give a little protest to the dad? Tell them why.
Maybe you should make your dad walk with you.
Yeah.
It's good exercising walking,
Yeah.
and it's better for the environment.
Yeah, you should go and tell your dad that to save the planet, we need to walk to school, and then hopefully he'll let you. Fruits and vegetables are both good for memory. Mahmoud Tinku uncle, yes. As Tasnim said, fruits and vegetables. Oh, you have a question?
What is your favorite fruit and vegetable, Tasnim? Do you eat 5 a day? I think my favorite fruits are bananas or grapes. I love grapes. They're just lots of fun.
Yes.
You can it's really easy to eat. Like I like to eat them whilst watching movies and stuff because it's like popcorn basically.
Yeah.
You can just pick it up and eat it.
I really want to try candy floss grapes. I've never had them. I really want to try them. I don't know.
Well,
I have
candy
heard
floss
about
grapes.
them. I don't know. All of my friends have had them before. Like they say they taste like candy floss, but like they're grapes.
Really?
I don't know. I've never seen them. I really want to try them one day. But yeah.
Wow.
I walk to school. Ah, well, that's really good. Yeah, I walk to school now as well since I live inside my school. So yeah, it's very good for the environment. I love mangoes and oranges.
Yeah.
Me too. Mangoes are the best.
I love mangoes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, how about we go on to that Key Stage 1 segment of today's program? Okay, so for today's Key Stage 1 segment, we're doing a very interesting topic. So sunflowers, and our kind of crazy question of today is sunflowers can move. So you might have heard about this. If you don't know, sunflowers move with the sun. And so it's very interesting. That's why they're called sunflowers. So yeah, we're going to be learning a little bit about that today. So I'll go on to my next slide. Okay, so how do they move? So as I said, they move with the sun. So the sun, a really cool fact about the sun is that it always rises in the east and it sets in the west. So when you have a sunrise, it'll always come up from the east and then go down to the west. So it's always like that. It's never going to change unless the earth miraculously starts spinning the other way. So yeah, it's always going to rise in the east and set in the west. And so in the morning when the sun comes up from the east, the sunflower is going to be facing the sun in the east. And in the next slide, I'll show you how it moves. And as the sun goes around and around, and then it's at the top, and then it comes back down and goes through the west, the sunflower will move with the sun, which is pretty crazy. So it'll go from facing the east all the way to facing the west throughout the day, which is, I think it's pretty crazy. And the next slide shows you what they do at nighttime. So at night, obviously, there's no sun at the night. You know, it's down below, no light, just the moon. And so what do sunflowers do? They don't have their little star in the sky anymore, you know? What do? They're kind of sad. So what they do is they get ready for the morning and they turn back to the east while they sleep. They turn back to the east and they're like, can't wait to see my best friend, the sun, again. So it gets ready and it goes back all the way to the start and it does it again and again every single day until it is fully grown, and then it sadly will die eventually and it will give off seeds so that more sunflowers can be grown. So a really, really big word that you guys don't really need to know, but I think is very fun fact that you can tell your friends, is that just like humans, sunflowers have something called a circadian rhythm. I know it's a very complicated word. I don't know. Have you ever heard of that word, circadian rhythm?
I think I've heard of it in biology when we're learning about how we sleep.
Yes, that's precisely what it's about. It's about how we sleep, and it's something that we have inside of us, in our brains, that tell us, hey, the sun is down, you need to go to sleep. Hey, the sun is up, you need to wake up. And so it's in every single human that tells us we need to do this. And sunflowers have this very same thing. It's called a circadian rhythm. And so the sunflower has something inside of it that tells them the sun is in the east, face the east. The sun is in the west, face the west. The sun is nowhere to be seen, then just face back to the east and wait for it to come back up. So that's kind of how they move. And I'm pretty sure that's all of my slides on the sunflower. Let me just check. Can we go to the next slide? Oh yes, how they move. This is a very interesting one, because you might be sitting there and being like, okay, I understand that they move, but how do they move? I don't understand how a sunflower can move like a human. Well, we all have these things called cells, which you'll definitely learn about when you're older. And it's what we're all made up of. So we're made out of cells everywhere, even our hair. Well, our hair is dead cells, but our skin has cells and our body is all made of cells. And so are plants, since plants are living things as well. And so in the morning, the east side of the plant, it starts to grow. And the uneven growth, it means one side is growing faster than the other. And it grows into a bend, and it bends the sunflower towards the east. And at nighttime, it does the opposite. So this one is going to start growing faster, and it'll bend that way. So that's how they move. So I'll go on to my next slide. Okay, so that was the Key Stage 2 segment on sunflowers, a little bit of a cool thing about sunflowers. So does anyone have any questions on sunflowers? I hope you guys enjoyed that. I did when I was researching it. It was very cool to see how the sunflowers move. Both are doing very good. Thank you for all the information. You're welcome. I hope we're all learning something new. I'm 6 and I can't go alone at school. That's fine. I didn't go to school on my own when I was 6. Don't worry. Make sure if you're walking to school, make sure you're with your parents if you're very young. Make sure you hold their hand. So yeah, don't worry about going to school on with your parents. It's fine. I walk to kitchen, saving environment. How about too much walking? Is it good? Well, in my opinion, there's no such thing as too much walking unless you are literally exhausted and you have no energy. Then you should probably save that energy and not walk. But yeah, yes, sunflower moves. Yes, it's very interesting how the sunflower moves. If I invite you both and there'll be no meat and fish on menu, only vegetables will serve, will you come? Gladly. I love vegetables. We might have to debate about the fish. I do really like my fish. Would you go? Would you go, Tasneem?
I think I would. I think I love myself a salad, or like a really nice like fried vegetable.
Oh,
Fried
I
good.
love. Yeah, or like baked broccoli. I love baked broccoli. Yeah. My parents right now.
Have you ever tried kale chips?
Kale chips. Oh, I think I've had beetroot chips, but I've never had kale chips. I should try that one day.
You can make them quick yourself by just getting kales, which is like some sort of, it's like lettuce, but it's a bit more thin. And you can like put it in the oven with some salt, and it's really nice. It's like really nice and crispy.
Oh, I definitely have to try that. I do like trying new things concerning vegetables, so hopefully I get to try that one day. Okay, so how about we go on to a special video that our guest, the beautiful Tasneem, has made today. So every week we always have a challenge video that the guest is making. So Tasneem made this video with her mum, and how about we all watch that together now?
Hi, I'm Tasneem Rashid, and I'm here with my mum.
Farzana Khan.
And my mum, she's been growing plants for the past 2 or 3 years. I'm pretty sure she loves them more than us. And so I'm here because I wanted to test her knowledge on plants and whether she actually is the gardening addict that she says she is. So Mama, do you think you're ready?
Yes.
Do you think you'll get 10 out of 10, all of them correct?
I'll try my best.
Okay, let's start. Number 1. Which of the following chemical elements is not amongst the main ingredients in most fertilizers? A, potassium, B, oxygen, and C, phosphorus?
I think oxygen because it's not NPK.
Yeah, correct. 2. When is the best time to grow garlic? A, 4 weeks after the ground freezes, B, 4 weeks before the ground freezes, or C, 4 weeks after the beginning of summer?
I think B, 4 weeks before the freezes.
Correct. 3. Which of the following insects are often considered to be pests as they cause damage and feed on garden plants? A, grasshoppers, B, bumblebees, and C, ladybugs.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Which of the following insects are often considered to be pests as they cause damage and feed on the garden plant? A, grasshoppers, B, bumblebees, and C, ladybugs.
I think A.
Correct.
Okay.
So, Mama, whenever we get bugs on our plants, which we do sometimes, what do you do to stop the bugs?
I use bug killer.
And how often do you spray the bug killer?
When I see it's not green, it's got the damages.
Yeah.
When then I use spray.
So did you know that the reason why the leaves on the plants turn yellow or turn brown when they have an infection or a disease is because there's a chemical component in their leaves called chloroplast or chlorophyll, and those are green, and plants require those to grow because in those a chemical reaction called a photosynthesis, which you guys might have learned about in school, that occurs in the chloroplasts, and that gives them energy which they need to grow. So the disease or the infection, they kill off the chloroplasts, which is why they turn yellow, because obviously chloroplasts are green. And then they have stunted growth, and then they don't grow and fulfill that potential that they have. Okay, question 4. Which of the following foods is not in the rose family? A, raspberries, B, apples, and C, grapes.
Grapes.
Correct.
There's no flower.
Yeah, bit of a trick question there. Number 5. Which of the following nutrients do plants not get directly from the soil? A, carbon, B, nitrogen, or C, potassium?
Carbon.
Correct. Which of the following methods is the best way to plant tomatoes? A, to cover the roots with soil, B, to bury them deep in the soil, and C, to set the roots atop the soil.
I think deep in the soil is a bit deep.
Correct, yeah. So is that what you did for that one?
Yeah. I have lots of tomato plants this year,
Yeah.
and I'm happy with.
There's a lot more in the garden up there.
Yeah, and we eat lots of tomato.
Question 8. What is the best way to protect seedlings from frost during early spring? A, to use frost repellents, B, to cover them with a frost blanket at night and remove it during the day, or C, to set the root, to use a heater at night?
I think B, covered the
Yeah, with a frost blanket.
husband.
Because frost blankets are made out of, like, sometimes foil, which reflect the radiation back into it to keep it warm. Last question. What normal vegetables are poisonous to most pets, including cats and dogs? A, garlic, B, onion, C, grapes, or D, all of the above?
Garlic and onion. Yeah?
Very
That's the
good.
answer here.
The answer was D, all of the above. Grapes as well. So, not right now as its current state, but when you cut these open and if your cat accidentally licks them, that can be very toxic to them because they not only can they not digest human foods like these, it can also, it can just, it's a toxin that's bad for them. So,
And lots of family have cats.
yeah, one of the biggest contributors to pets being ill is because of exposure to household plants like this. Like even, for example, lavender is very poisonous to cats. very normal houseplants can be poisonous to them. So make sure you do your research before getting a pet or before starting to grow a plant. Well, Mama, you got 10 out of 10. Well done. I think so. You definitely are a garden addict then.
Yeah, and I've got a passion for gardening.
Do you have any tips for any new gardeners?
Try to convince who don't want to be a gardener, like my.
I think that got a bit cut off at the end there, but
sorry, just to interject, I can't hear anything right now, so I'm going to quickly leave and come back, but it'll only take 2 seconds.
That's all right. I think my mum was saying there at the end, just make sure gardening is like a habit that you need to like commit to. It's all about like the effort that you put in. So just stick to it like every day, and you will see results, even if your seeds don't grow within like a week or two. You just have to be patient. Yeah,
Okay.
that's really it. So we were just talking about how you have to be patient with gardening, and you have to commit to it until you see the results.
Yeah, I really liked that video. I think that was a very cute video, first of all. So thank you for making that. And your cat is very cute as well. Does it have a name?
Yeah, his name is Mango.
Oh, that is such a cute name. Oh my gosh. Oh, and I didn't know that domestic pets could be so like, allergic to a lot of things. I did not know that. So it's very cool. Maybe if I decide to get a pet one day, I'll make sure to check what plants I have around the house.
Yeah.
If we put electric bright lights in the night, will sunflower react? Oh, that is very interesting. I'm sure that I think they will because
Yeah,
the
we
light
did this
kind of acts as the sun.
Yeah, we did this in school actually. We did an experiment where we had different seeds in like cotton in water and like a lamp, and we lined the seeds away from the lamp,
Yeah.
which is an electric light, and we tried seeing whether the seeds would react to the light, and they did after like 2 or 3 weeks. They
so
did
I guess
towards
that
the light,
answers
which
the
is what
question.
you were saying.
I guess that answers the question then. Is there any male sunflower and female sunflower, or just sunflower? Oh, I think I know that there's plants where you have a male one and a female one, but I think most plants have both of the male and the female parts inside of them, like in just the one plant. And I think sunflowers are like that as well, but I'll have to check and make sure that that's correct. So I'll have to do a little bit of research, but I'm pretty sure it has both the male and the female inside the same flower, just different parts of the flower. Hello, Chuppy. I'm watching. Oh, hi, Iman. Hi, Iman. I hope you're enjoying it. Excellent presentation, both. Brilliant presentation. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so that was a lovely challenge video, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. And I think, should we move on to the Key Stage 2 segment? Okay, so Key Stage 2. So we're going to be talking about climate change and global warming today. Global warming. So as Tasneem already kind of talked a little bit about climate change, talking about the effects of, the pollution from forest fires. And I'm kind of going to expand on that a little bit in the segment. So let's go to the first slide. Okay, so we'll go to the next slide. If we can. Okay, so the greenhouse effect. Okay, so you guys might be sitting there and thinking, oh, we've heard about this too many times. They always talk about it at school. The news, they always talk about it in the news. Oh, I'm kind of sick and tired. Well, don't be sick and tired, because that's very bad. You need to be learning about this, and it's very, very important. That's why they talk about it a lot, because we are the future generation. We're going to be the ones who have to make the change. And so it's very important that we're all learning about this. And so I kind of wanted to talk about that today. So yeah, the greenhouse effect is basically when you have a greenhouse, you kind of want it to be warm inside and you want it to be warm for all your plants to kind of grow, right? And so the same kind of thing is happens around the earth to keep our earth warm. Otherwise, we'd be like very, very cold and we wouldn't be able to live in such a cold environment. So we have the layer around the earth, the ozone, and so the atmosphere. And basically, what happens is radiation from the sun hits the surface of the earth, and some of the waves go out into this kind of it's kind of like a bubble. You can think of it as a bubble around the earth or a blanket around the earth. And some of the sun rays hit the blanket and come back down to the earth. And all of these sun rays heat up our earth so that we can have warmth and plants can grow in the right temperature, and so that we have a weather system basically. And some of these rays go directly just back out into space randomly and don't come back. So yeah, that's basically how our earth warms itself. And the major problem that we have with this greenhouse effect is that it is getting more and more severe. So although we need the greenhouse effect, it's also getting worse. So as Tasnim said earlier about carbon dioxide, this is a greenhouse gas, as we would call it. And another one of these is called methane and also water vapor. And so these are things we all breathe out into the air on a regular basis. And what happens is these gases create a blanket around the earth, a very, very thick blanket, and it adds and adds and adds the more it goes into it. And what happens is the sun rays that come down to the earth, they can't get back out anymore. They don't go out. And so they stay inside of the earth's blanket and they start to heat it more and more and more. And that's kind of what climate change or global warming is. And so I have a picture of cows here, and you're probably like, why is there a picture of cows? Well, cows, when they release air, if you know what I mean, when they release air, they release the gas methane. And so this goes into the atmosphere. And because of us humans eating cows and eating beef and eating all of these different types of animals, more and more and more and more of these farm animals are being bred and born every single year, and it is going at an accelerating rate. And so more and more of these cows are being born, and that means that more methane is being put into the air. And so it's really adding to the greenhouse effect. And obviously a big one is pollution from energy, from using fossil fuels. So I'm sure you've heard of it in school, but fossil fuels are basically things on Earth that we use to make electricity and make energy. And these things, when you burn them, they make carbon dioxide and they add to the blanket around the Earth, and it makes the Earth very, very hot. And so my next slide is going to show you why exactly this is bad. Like, why is this happening? And so this shows you the graph. So it looks a little bit complicated, but I'll try my best to explain it. So that big red line that you see going through it, that big red line shows how much carbon dioxide is in our air. And so you can see it's getting very, very much higher as we get to the 2000s. And it was very much lower in the 1800s. And you can see it is getting faster as well. You can tell by the kind of heightening in the line, it's getting faster. And so it's getting worse. And the blue line is showing the global temperature, so how hot the Earth is. And can you see it's almost 1 degree hotter over the 200 years, which is, it might not seem like a lot, but trust me, this makes some major differences. And we're going to talk about that as well. So the next slide. Why it's bad. So I have a lot of pictures here. So one of them is obviously the Earth is getting hotter, which is an obvious thing. And this is really bad because plants need a certain temperature. They're used to a certain temperature. And if it's getting harder for the plants to survive in this hot weather, then, that's really bad for us since they give us the oxygen that we breathe. And so these hotter temperatures are also causing more wildfires, like Tasmin did her presentation on. But it's causing more wildfires considering that the sun is always kind of there. The sun rays aren't going back. It's a lot harder for them to go back into space. So they stay here on Earth and it can cause fires. And it also means we get a lot of frequent storms. So because of the temperature getting hotter, it also changes the weather we have. So, for example, less rainfall or more rainfall. And then we also get very, very deep variations in our weather. And so a lot of storms might happen, and which is really bad in some countries. Thankfully, we live in a place where we don't really get like very terrible things. Like we don't get many earthquakes, we don't get tsunamis. So thankfully, we don't have that. But an increase in these natural disasters is because of climate change. So that's another thing. And also, when you get hot, you take your temperature and it's high, and that means you're ill. And climate change and the earth getting hotter is just going to add to that. It's going to make getting ill a lot easier. And so it's not very good to be ill. So that's another bad thing. And drought is another, which is an obvious one, less water. And also the ice caps melting in Antarctica and the Arctic, which is very bad because that means the sea levels are rising. And that's going to be a danger to people who live like on the beach and live near the coast, and also to all the sea animals and coral life. It's very bad. And it also means that it's going to be harder to grow crops. As I said before, plants are used to our temperature, and because it's 1 degree hotter, which is actually quite a lot for plants, it's going to be a lot harder to get crops. And so it's going to be harder for us to eat, wheat and corn and things like that. So that's why climate change is bad. Let's go to the next slide. What you can do to help. So there's a lot of things you can do to help. I think we've already kind of talked a lot about this. So walking and biking to school and to different places instead of taking a car. Using LED lamps instead of the filament bulbs, since LED lamps are a lot more energy efficient and they're just a lot better to have in your homes. Recycling, I think we mentioned that earlier. Recycling is a big one. You might think, how does recycling help? Well, it means that less waste is going to landfills where they have to burn all of the waste. And this is obviously going to produce masses of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gases. So we don't want that. So make sure you're recycling. A good thing in terms of gardening is making compost with your waste. So that's a way you can reduce going to landfills. You can make compost. And I have a picture of cars here. And this is an electric car. So they don't use fossil fuels. So in the future, they're definitely becoming a lot more accessible. Obviously, not everyone can have an electric car, which if everyone could, that would be great, but it's not like that.
Yeah.
But they are becoming slowly more accessible to the wider public. And hopefully in a few years, we can see a lot more of these on the roads as they're a lot better for our environment. And also make sure you spread the message. This is the main thing that you can do. If you can't do any of these, make sure you tell your friends, the importance of this, because as kids, we are the people who are going to be changing the earth. So it's very, very important because we don't have much time to save the earth. We have to do as much as we can as quick as possible. And so it's very important that everyone knows what to do and that we're all kind of pitching in and making a difference. So that's kind of how you can help prevent climate change. All right, so that was my segment for Key Stage 2. I don't think there's a next slide. Can we go to the next slide? Oh, the quiz. Yes, the quiz is next. But that was my segment for Key Stage 2. So does anyone have any questions on that? So the sunflower. Oh yeah, sorry, do you have a question?
No, but I was just going to say, one of the points you made about composting, what my mum tends to do is with her food waste, such as like onion skins and like banana peels and stuff, she just like lets it soak in water, and then she uses that water to water her plants because you get like the nutrients from the onion and the bananas, which is very helpful for your plants. So if you've got some food waste and you have a garden, you can very much just let it soak in some water and use that to water your plants.
I agree. That is a very good option to do because it also means you're buying, you're taking your car out less to go and buy fertilizers from the shops that are covered in plastic as well, which is not sustainable. And obviously those fertilizers are made using energy. And so it's very good that you can make your own fertilizers at home using onions. So I think that's a very good tip to everyone. Mukul says the sunflower is neither male or female. It has both male and female reproductive organs. That is true. So as I was saying, flowers usually have both of the male and female reproductive organs. So yeah, I did learn about it a long time ago. I don't really remember it. I think it was during my GCSEs. I don't really remember it, but yeah. One of my sunflower plant pots is in front of a glass door. The flower of this planet is always facing of the glass door, not the sun. My daughter thinks it's the sunflower following the reflection of the sun on the glass door. Oh, that's very interesting. So I think another comment talks about how you can use a lamp if a lamp could act as the sun. And I guess the reflection of the sun could work the same way. It's still getting that light. It still looks like the sun. And so, yeah, very informative slides along with elaborated presentation indeed. Quite useful, no doubt. Well done, girls. Thank you so much, Joyce. So many things you are seeing is actually in my planet book. Oh, it's very cool that you have a planet book.
Oh.
Thank you, Side Uncle, for operating this show, Jack1. Sorry, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, something happened there. Okay, so if anyone has any more questions, then okay, we can move on to the quiz for today's program. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 5 questions about what we kind of learned today. I think pretty much all of them are for the segments I did, but that's fine. Since we already kind of answered a few questions on like the fire ecology and stuff. So you'll have 10 seconds to answer each question, A, B, C, or D. And we'll take turns reading the questions if that's all right. So let's start. Okay, so in what cardinal directions does the sun set and rise? Is it A, rises in the west and sets in the east? Is it B, rises in the south, sets in the north? Is it C, rises in the north, sets in the south? Or is it D, rises in the east, sets in the west? So, Tasnim, do you want to count down from 10 for everyone?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And I'm looking at these answers, and they all look right.
They all do look right. So we've got a lot of answering D, and that is correct. D is the right answer. Rises in the east and sets in the west. You're probably wondering why I said it so many times during that slide, and that's probably why. Just wanted to get it into your brains. So yeah, it rises in the east, sets in the rises in the east and sets in the west. And this is important if you ever get lost and you see the sun in the sky, then maybe you can kind of know what direction you're going in. I'm not sure how helpful that is, but it's good to know. Okay, let's go to the next question. Well done, everyone, for getting D. So do you want to read this question?
Around how long ago did farming and agriculture develop? A, 11,000 years ago, or 9,000 BC, B, 4,000 years ago, or 2,000 BC, C, 8,000 years ago, or 6,000 BC, or D, 2,000 years ago, or 1 AD.
Okay, I'm going to count down from 15 this time, since I think this is a bit of a tricky question. I'm not sure if everyone remembers. So 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So looking at these answers, A, we've got a lot of A's. A. I'm pretty sure everyone wrote A from what I've seen. And the right answer is A. So well done to everyone for putting A. So yeah, that is the right answer. 11,000 years ago in Fertile Crescent. Are we allowed to check Google? That is cheating. You should have remembered from the slides. No, you cannot check Google. All right, so let's go on to the next question. When was the Industrial Revolution? Was it A, the 20th century or the 1900s, B, the 16th century or the 1500s, C, the 19th century or the 1800s, D, the 21st century, also known as the 2000s? So, Tasmin, you want to count down from 10?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
I think some of the answers are still kind of coming in. It's a little bit of a tricky question. You might have to think about it. We're getting a lot of B's. Okay. The 16th century. Okay, I'm pretty sure everyone's putting B. Are you guys following each other? Are you guys just looking at what other people are writing? Okay, I am sad to say that that is not the correct answer. And I'm not joking this time. I'm not joking. The correct answer is C. So if you put B because everyone else was putting B, you should have stuck with your gut feeling and put C, because the Industrial Revolution was the 19th century. So it was the 1800s. All right. So make sure you revise that. Make sure you get your pens and books out and put that down. So yeah, go with your gut feelings, everyone. So yeah, it was the 19th century when Queen Victoria was the queen. That was kind of the era when the Industrial Revolution happened, during the 1800s and kind of the late 1700s. Okay, let's go to the next question. Okay, would you like to read this question?
What gas is the main cause of global warming? A, methane, B, carbon dioxide, C, oxygen, and D, nitrogen.
Okay, so 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Let's see all these answers coming in. Okay. As expected, a lot of people are putting carbon dioxide. All right, a lot of that. And I will reveal that the correct answer is B. Yes, the correct answer is B. Well done to everyone who actually got it right this time and didn't copy other people. So yeah, well done for putting B, carbon dioxide. Again, if you put A or thought methane, or maybe you were like, I don't know if it's methane or carbon dioxide. Methane is a greenhouse gas that can cause global warming, but carbon dioxide is definitely the main one and kind of the villain in the sense. And methane is its sidekick. Okay, so well done for that. And let's go to the next question. Is this the last question? 5 questions? I'm not sure. Okay. Around how many degrees hotter is the Earth since 200 years ago, or the 1800s? So is it A, 2 degrees Celsius, B, 5 degrees Celsius, C, 1 degree Celsius, or D, 10 degrees Celsius? All right, so do you want to count down from 10?
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, let's see what everyone's putting. Okay, C. All right, we're getting C's. Let's see. I did repeat this one a lot, just to kind of get it in your brains. So let's see if
Some
what
people are
everyone
saying
thinks.
B, or was that from the last question?
It might have been from the last one. Okay, C. So C is the correct answer. Sorry, give me 1 second.
Yeah, C is the correct answer. Well done, guys. I wonder if you guys are cheating and going off of other people's answers or using Google, or if you guys actually remembered. Uncle Uncle asks, quiz
Sorry.
to both. Where does Mama Tinku Uncle walk? I do not know. Maybe he goes to Kew Gardens where Queen Victoria exercised.
Yes. Okay, so well done to everyone for getting that. So well done. I think we'll have to end our program here. So yeah. Sorry about that. It just glitched out a little bit. So I think we'll have to end our program here today. So how did you find today's program?
I enjoyed it. I think I learned a lot about like the sunflower thing and a lot about global warming, and I found the history of gardening really interesting. Like I've never even heard of that before.
Yeah. Well, I found your fire ecology one very interesting as well. You know, I've never even thought of that. I hope everyone learned something new from that. And yeah, so I also enjoyed today's program. So thank you very much for joining me. And thank you to everyone who's watching. And if you're watching this after the live has ended and you're just watching it through, then thank you for watching as well. So yeah, well done both. Thanks, Tasmin, for joining.
Thank you for letting me be here.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Thank you. Really nice. Thank you. I didn't understand everything, but I love participating. Oh, that's all right. Maybe you can watch this back and kind of look at the slides a little bit, but
yeah,
maybe next time I'll try and explain things a little bit easier. We had some very hard topics today, so I'm glad that everyone stayed watching. Thanks to both Safwana and Tasnim. Oh, thank you, Mum.
thank you.
Both of you doing really great. Love you both. Okay, thank you everyone for watching again. So yeah, I'm really glad everyone's enjoying this, and hopefully you can join me next week on Monday as well. So yeah, thank you everyone, and we'll end our live here.
BTS করে BTS স্বপ্ন যাবে অনেক দূর হবে না তো সে BTS করে BTS স্বপ্ন যাবে অনেক দূর হবে না তো সে